Well, I just want to say thank you for allowing me to speak to you today. It's nice. I've been here at the city for roughly 2.5 months, working on 3 months. I just recently moved into the city of Wildomar, so I actually live off of Grand Avenue and Central in the Windstone development. I just want to give you a quick background of who I am and where I came from. As already mentioned, my name is Frank Oviedo. I was actually born in the Fresno area, Central California. So both of my parents came here from Mexico, and they settled in the Fresno area, and that's where I grew up, in a small town farming community of Sanger. Then I moved into Clovis, California, which is right near Fresno, if any of you are familiar with that neck of the woods. And went to Clovis High, went to the local university there at Fresno State, and did well enough that somebody thought to give me a scholarship to do my master's degree in Arizona. So I went to Arizona State University, where I did finish my master's degree in public administration. So I went back to Arizona. I took a course I was taking a graduate course in budgeting, and a city manager from Glendale, Arizona, if any of you are familiar with Glendale. It's where the new stadium for the professional team in the Phoenix area plays. A gentleman by the name of Marty Vanacore, Dr. Vanacore. He was the city manager there in Glendale, and he talked lovingly about this career of city management. He says you still follow politics, but you're the administrator. You run the city. You're the professional manager that runs the city. And it really kind of sounded exciting, and so he left a business card, and I took him up on the offer to sit down with him and talk about the profession of city management. And that's really how I got into this profession. And moved out to California, and my first job working in city government was in the city of Santa Clarita. Again, if you're familiar with that, it's northern Los Angeles County. It's right where Magic Mountain is at. That's how I always tell everybody remembers that. And it was the largest, at the time they incorporated, it was the largest incorporation in LA County history. And I spent about five years there, and I spent time doing finance work, and then an opportunity came up for me to work up in Northern California, and a city had just incorporated just south of Sacramento by the name of Elk Grove. And I knew the manager at the time, and he was just building his staff, and I became, I think, number 25. I was their 25th employee. And again, not unlike Santa Clarita, not unlike even here, Elk Grove was a growing community, and it was newly incorporated. And so once again, I was in that environment again, in a newly incorporated city, in a growing city, and I was kind of honing my skills on how to become a city manager, and eventually rose to the level of deputy city manager. I had overseen basically all the operations in the city, with the exception of the police department. Yeah, it was a long road to travel, but I think it was a journey that was worth it, because I looked at it, and the person who was serving as the interim manager at the time, I wasn't even really thinking about moving back to Southern California. I wasn't really thinking about coming to a new city. I was very comfortable where I was at in Northern California. And there was the League of California Cities, which is all the cities come together annually, and all the elected officials, and they talk about how cities are going and finances and all the issues that cities are facing. And he said, well, there's this new city out in Southern California. They just incorporated. They've got their very own character. There's a feel to the community. There's a lot of excitement about being a new city and the potentials for the future. And so it kind of piqued my interest, and I just happened to be there at the time that some of the council members, the newly elected council members, were down there, and I met some of them. I think I met Marcia, I met Bridget, I think I met all of the council members at a dinner. One of the exciting things when I first got here, and I won't take credit for it, it was just already happening, but the staff that was here was working on a grant called Safe Routes to School, and they were able to obtain $500,000 of money to improve sidewalks so that children in the community will have safe routes to school, essentially. And I'll tell you again, and I'll keep inserting this perspective issue, is that for perspective, in this down economy, in a time when every level of government is hurting for cash, the fact that you have a local city, and again, I won't take credit for this because this was happening before I got here, and staff that were able to get $500,000 in grants to improve sidewalks is a huge benefit to this community and just an accomplishment that speaks volumes about the efforts that this city has gone through in the very short amount of time that they've been a city. One of the other things that I wanted to mention as well, and it's important I think for this group as seniors, is that we've successfully transferred all the parks and recreation programming over to the city, which was a big deal. That doesn't happen all the time with newly incorporated cities. Oftentimes if they're in a district or in their especially funded by the county, they'll oftentimes stay there. They won't come over to the city unless there's some kind of negotiated agreement. In this case, they were negotiated, they are coming to the city, or they are in the city, they've been successfully transferred. So what you're going to be able to see in the next few years as we're struggling, and I'll speak candidly, we're struggling with our finances a little bit like every city in the state, but what it means is that we have control of those parks and those programmings. The programming that goes into the parks and all the other programming that a Parks and Recreation department would do. Our own Paula Willette here, sitting at the table, is in charge of those things and is just a tireless worker in putting programs together. And one of the things we're going to be bringing back to the council is potentially trying to get some additional grant money from the county through the Community Development Block Grant Program, the CDBG program, to try to bring some money into a center like this and start to run programs for seniors. And that's a real important factor because the Parks and Recreation departments do a really good job of doing youth programs. That's where a lot of the focus is at. Oftentimes where cities forget to, I shouldn't say forget, but they put all their effort in the youth, is to hit on senior programs. Some cities do a better job than others. I'd like us to get a good start and work with seniors and really put some really strong programs. And I'm hoping that with all you hearing this today, that some of you will even come in and assist us and participate in setting some of those programs up when we do get some of that grant money, so that we can set a good foundation for having senior programs now and into the future. So that's some of the things that I will be bringing to the council, and hopefully they'll be in agreement with me to do that. At least two of them will be, I'm sure, certain, because they're here today. Is that we have preparedness programs, and seniors are oftentimes very vulnerable in that, often because some of you drive, some of you don't drive, and we don't want to be in a situation where we have evacuations and those of you who may not be driving don't have any way to leave the city or get to a safe place. And so we're going to be looking at those issues, and emergency preparedness is very, very important. And matter of fact, we have our plan together. If we're putting the finishing touches on it, and we're going to be sending it up to Sacramento so that they can give it the blessing, and then it'll come back down, and then your city council will then adopt that emergency management plan. And it's so that we can address those issues, especially communities, in any community, the most vulnerable in the community, or who we're really going to focus on. One of the other things that was very important to us, or to the city, is, and any city that incorporates for that matter, is traffic. People get very frustrated with traffic congestion and those type of things, and people speeding in the community, those type of things. So as a new city, you have that opportunity to have your own engineering staff looking at those issues, and so we're actively looking in the community we just recently how to slow traffic down the community to try to avoid some of those fatalities and when people are speeding. We just lowered the speed limits on Bundy Canyon. The council adopted that, and those went into effect this week, or actually last week they went into effect. And so it's constantly being vigilant, and I think that's the important thing about having your own city, is that you don't have to go down to Riverside County, its offices down in Riverside, to go lodge a complaint with somebody or go to a Board of Supervisors meeting. City Hall is 5 minutes. It only took me 5 minutes to drive over here. You can go down there. You have council members that are local. They live here in the city, and they're always willing to take calls at all hours of the night, because I get some of the emails afterwards. And that's okay. That's why I'm here, and that's why I live in the city. And so I have a vested interest as well. As I drive around, I'm always amazed how there's not a lot of shopping opportunities. There's not a lot of places to eat, restaurants. A lot of it is fast food. We do have a lot of that. But we want to give you a few more options, give the public, the community a few more options in that regard.